Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Today we're going to cover the patch notes for the March 2022 update. As usual, the information I'm presenting in this video comes from an advanced draft of the patch notes that Wargaming sends out to the community contributors prior to the patch notes being publicly unveiled. As such, some details may change in the final version, and some information may be missing from this video because it wasn't in the advanced draft that I received. If you want to read the final public version of the patch notes for yourself, I left a link in the description, and hopefully I did not forget. Anyway, this update is a little bit slim on content in comparison to some of the more recent updates, but the new stuff is still quite significant. As our first order of business, let's talk about the new campaign, for which the Tier 7 American destroyer Summers is the reward. Summers on PC is a very potent Tier 10 destroyer, so it will be interesting to see how it's balanced for Tier 7 in Legends when it could have been placed probably in the Legendary tier. According to the patch notes, Summers has 8 rapid-firing main battery guns and 12 torpedoes. If the torpedoes have good range and speed, they will be utterly terrifying threats since they are American torpedoes, and American torpedoes tend to have great concealment, which means you don't see them until it's too late. I'll be interested to test out the Summers at the start of the update, and it's nice to see Wargaming is no longer so shy about adding premium Tier 7 destroyers in the game. A while ago, it felt like we got the Udachi and then no other premium Tier 7 destroyers for a long time, so I'm glad Wargaming is adding more. Next up, though, we've got St. Patrick's Day occurring during the month of March, and thus we're getting some green-themed content. A new Commander Guise will be added to your British and American historical commanders, which will turn them into Brady McMordoff, an alleged leprechaun whose guise almost certainly gives your shells some lovely green shell tracers. I think I'll enjoy that immensely. A St. Patrick's-themed camo scheme for the Tiger 59 British cruiser is being added as well, and the Tiger 59 will be one of the premium ships coming in this update, but more on that a little bit later. There will also be a St. Patrick's Day flag and patch, both of which will undoubtedly provide a buff of plus 200% luck to you if you equip them. The pot of gold containers are also returning to the store this year. Each pot of gold is guaranteed to drop 1,250 doubloons and 3 St. Patrick's Day camos. Each also has the chance to drop similarly themed permanent skins for Tiger 59 and Belfast, as well as commander progression items, credits, and of course, that elusive super prize for a few very lucky dice rollers. Sales of the St. Patrick's Day content start in the second week of the update, specifically March 14th. Oh, and Belfast is returning to the store once again for 12.5k doubloons. I suppose I should mention that. It will be available for purchase until April 11th. There is a mysterious section in the patch notes following the St. Patrick's Day content, which is subtitled, quote, "Something especially fast," and it says, and again I quote, "Prepare to race, starting March 21. More to follow," end quote. I guess we should all stay tuned for whatever that is. Next, we should note the Italian battleship tech tree line is coming out of early access, and thus the Tier 7 Vittorio Veneto, or Veneto, I'm not sure how you pronounce it actually, will be available for research and purchase. I think I should be able to get it on day 1, and I'm looking forward to playing it. And now, for some absolutely thrilling and wonderful news. Soviet aircraft carriers are being added to the game. Sounds like they are not coming to early access, but instead are going to be fully researchable. Soviet aircraft carriers, of course, have the gimmick of something called skip bombers. Their plane squadrons only get one full squadron to drop instead of a squadron that splits off into multiple drops. Their squadrons drop all at once. I've played the Soviet CVs on PC, and they're kind of oppressive in the sense that their skip bomber squadrons can often drop outside of their target's anti-aircraft bubbles, which I think is totally unfair and overpowered. Hopefully, they will be a little bit better balanced on Legends. Along with the Soviet CV line, we are, of course, getting a dedicated Soviet CV commander. And before we stop talking about Soviet CVs, note that the Tier 7 Pobeda enjoys jet-assisted takeoff, which basically means the planes launch from the flight deck at like 200 knots and then slow down to a much more pedestrian pace after the jet boosters fall off of the planes and into the water. Also, the Tier 3 Soviet CV does not have skip bombers, but instead regular high-explosive bombers, so you'll have to grind to the Tier 5 CV to experience this new ordnance type. Moving on, we come to the final batch of new content. As I stated earlier, the British cruiser Tiger 59 is coming to the store as a Tier 6 Premium, along with the Tier 4 Premium American destroyer USS Hill. Furthermore, the premium Tier 7 French battleship Champagne is returning to the store as a 750,000 Global XP ship. I think all of these three vessels are also getting some kind of green-themed perma-camos, which will be available in the store during the first week of the update, but they will be gone, according to these patch notes, by March 14th, so a limited time to get these skins. Now, to finish up, we've got a list of balance changes, bug fixes, and miscellaneous changes. As usual, I'm only going to give you the highlights here. Several existing aircraft carriers are receiving buffs and nerfs. The most prominent of these are for the Shokaku, which gets improved concealment for its dive bombers, and a buff to the restoration time of its upgraded dive bombers. August von Parzival gets a nerf, but hold your horses, it's not really that much of a nerf. It's a 5% nerf to the damage done by both its dive bombers and torpedo bombers. Actually, maybe that is kind of significant, but that ship probably does need a nerf. The Tier 3 British CV and the Tier 3 American CV also both get some fairly significant buffs. As for surface ships, though, the poor Minsk gets some of the parameters of its previous massive buff reduced. Minsk's gun reload time is reduced by half a second, and its torpedoes take an extra 9 seconds to reload after the update, so all in all, not a huge nerf, and it still should be quite good indeed. And then finally, the Tier 7 Pan-Asian destroyer Xian Yang gets a 1.1 kilometer buff to its maximum torpedo range, as well as a 1,000 damage buff to its torpedo alpha strike, bringing it from 17 to 18,000. And that's kind of good, because I felt like the torpedoes on that ship, which I still need to do a video on, by the way, were not as great as they necessarily could be. But now for the balance change people have waited for a long time. This is really good news. You will now be able to set priority target for your secondary guns, and you will also be able to toggle your anti-aircraft guns on or off. This is excellent, especially that latter part. It'll be very, very good for destroyers to be able to turn off their anti-aircraft guns so that CVs don't have an even easier time spotting them. I'm really happy about this change, if you can't tell. It is fantastic news, in my view. I think these two features will be achieved by adding extra commands to the quick command wheel. And speaking of that quick command wheel, by the way, the gun lock, the L3 button gun lock on which I rely so heavily, is being added to the quick command wheel too. So maybe I'll even try to switch my controller preset now. Who knows? I think there are a couple problems with preset 3, but I'm so used to it that I haven't been able to bring myself to switch, and I don't want to give up that gun lock. But now everybody will be able to access it because it'll be on the quick command wheel. In any case, that is pretty much all there is to cover in this update, although there is a rather long list of minor bug fixes, and I don't really feel like any of them are worth highlighting, but if you want to take a look at them, you can, of course, refer to the bottom section of the patch notes. Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of the update in the comments. Give the video a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.